Stephen A. Smith, Jaylen Brown. Guess what happened now? Well, Stephen A. Smith has decided to stir up drama by putting Jaylen Brown on blast. Why? I'll tell you why in just a moment. By the way, this is Sports Guy talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Stephen A. Smith blasting Jaylen Brown for being unlikable to NBA fans. Apparently, Stephen A. Smith is reporting that an NBA source told him why Jaylen Brown is not getting enough credit around the league. According to Stephen A. Smith, the reason for Jaylen Brown for being unlikable is because of his mentality surrounding his play style. Before I say anything else, though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. Do you agree with Stephen A. Smith's comments on Jaylen Brown? Not really. I don't really believe that Stephen A. Smith was right when talking about Jaylen Brown. And once again, Stephen A. Smith exposed his lack of knowledge surrounding basketball when talking about Jaylen Brown on First Take. And I say that because Jaylen Brown is not a diva compared to other divas in the NBA. There's a lot of divas in the modern NBA, but Jaylen Brown is not one of them. In fact, Jaylen Brown is one of the hardest working players in the NBA. My biggest criticism for Jaylen Brown is that he needs to play better at certain times and that he could improve his dribbling skills on the left side of his hand. But other than that, Jaylen Brown is a really good basketball player. He can shoot the three ball well, he can handle the basketball somewhat efficiently, and he can play really good defense. The point is, Jaylen Brown plays hard on both ends of the floor, which is something that I can't say about a lot of NBA stars in today's league. And obviously, Stephen A. Smith was clearly out of touch when talking about Jaylen Brown. He clearly exposed himself in terms of not knowing the game of basketball on First Take. Roll the film.
It's not so much that he's underrated. It's that he's just not liked because of his quote, "I am better than you" attitude. He knows it. It's the same reason he is not as marketable as he should be. That's what an NBA source just sent me.
What NBA source, Stephen A? Can you put a name to it? Can you tell us who was the NBA source? For all we know, Stephen A. Smith could have easily put that on his notes app in the iPhone and made up that story, because we all know that Stephen A. Smith is not a reliable source whatsoever when talking about star players in the NBA. It's pretty obvious that Stephen A. Smith does not know the NBA well for a guy that is getting paid $12 million a year, and Stephen A. Smith is asking for $20 million a year during his next round of contract negotiations. I don't actually know that for a fact, but that's what I'm hearing and that's what I'm projecting will happen with Stephen A. Smith during the next round of contract negotiations. We all know that Stephen A. Smith wants to become the highest paid sports talker in the history of sports television. Well, if you want to do that, Stephen A. Smith, making up stories about Jaylen Brown is not the way to go. But we all know that Stephen A. Smith is all about getting the headlines and getting the money. That's why we call him Stephen A. Myth. Remember the time where Stephen A. Smith wrote a book and told everyone that he hit 17 straight threes during a high school scrimmage? Yeah. Obviously, that story never happened because nobody can verify it. And if it was verifiable, don't you really think we would have heard about it by now? Obviously, that story never happened, and Stephen A. Smith made up a story just to get people to buy his book. And he obviously never hit 17 straight threes. If that was the case, then why did he end up playing basketball for Winston-Salem State? Obviously, Stephen A. Smith would have been playing for a higher level college had scouts been able to see that he could hit 17 straight threes during a scrimmage. But that's another story for another day. The point is, we all know Stephen A. Smith to be Stephen A. Myth, and this is another example of Stephen A. Smith being an absolute liar. He obviously lied about Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is definitely one of the more likable players in the NBA. In fact, before Stephen A. Smith reported about Jaylen Brown's troubles, I never even heard anyone complain about Jaylen Brown. In fact, if anything, Jaylen Brown is one of the most underrated players in the National Basketball Association. He's the Robin to Jason Tatum's Batman, and the Boston Celtics are one of the best 1-2 punches in today's NBA. And I say that because you look at how the Boston Celtics are on the verge of going to the NBA Finals. Right now, they're one win away from going to the NBA Finals for the second time in the last 3 seasons. And obviously, Jaylen Brown has played a tremendous role in the success of the Boston Celtics. In fact, you could probably say that Jaylen Brown has probably made the game of basketball too easy for the Boston Boston Celtics with his ability to score the basketball and to play defense on the other side of the floor. The Boston Celtics, they do a great job shooting the three ball. They've also done a great job defending the three ball against the Indiana Pacers, and that's a big reason why they're up 3-0 in the series against the Pacers. As far as how Game 4 is going to play out, I expect the Boston Celtics to beat the Indiana Pacers comfortably, mainly because of the fact that the Indiana Pacers are not going to have Tyrese Halliburton play for them whatsoever. He's still got a left hamstring injury. I don't think he's going to go out there and play Game 4. And even though the Boston Celtics have not really had Kristaps Porzingis for most of the playoffs, they've still been able to play productive basketball because of the greatness of Al Horford. I know Al Horford isn't the same player he once was, but he's still an effective player for the Boston Celtics, and he's done a great job grabbing rebounds for the Celtics while providing them spacing from the three-point line. The Boston Celtics are a really well-constructed team, and they honestly remind me of last year's Denver Nuggets in terms of the fact how they have 2 stars and a bunch of good role players, and they have guys that know their roles and they play in their roles really well, which is a skill that is underrated in today's NBA. If you don't have role players that can play their role really well, you're not going to succeed in today's NBA. I don't care how many stars you got in your team. You need role players to play their roles effectively, and that's exactly what the Boston Celtics have done. I also think their coaching has significantly improved from last season. Joe Mazzulla was an inexperienced coach last season, but this year he's gained some experience and he's made some really good moves as a head coach. He's been putting guys in position to succeed, and guess what? Role players have found a way to be successful for the Boston Celtics, which is a big reason why they won 60+ games, and that's why they've been able to steamroll everybody in the playoffs. They've been able to steamroll Miami in the first round. They were able to steamroll the Cavs in the second round, and it seems like they're going to steamroll the Indiana Pacers in the conference finals. And don't tell me Tyrese Halliburton not playing for the Pacers after Game 2 was a factor in it, because the Pacers were down 0-2 to the Boston Celtics in this series. A series I thought could have gone at least 6 games, but the Boston Celtics have found a way to close out the games where they've been tight, and Jason Tatum has stepped up in big moments. He's the definition of a clutch player. I think he needs to get more respect around the NBA. So does Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown is an absolute dog. We all know that Jaylen Brown can play basketball at a high level, and it seems like the Boston Celtics have to be the championship favorites at this point in juncture of the season because of the way they play defense and because of the way they shoot the three ball. Are they inconsistent from 3 at times? Absolutely. But have you seen the rest of the NBA? That's how the NBA plays in today's NBA. You have to be able to shoot a ton of threes, and you have to be able to defend the three ball really well. And the Boston Celtics have really simplified the game to the point where if you make more threes than the opponent, you're going to win games more often than not. And if we miss a ton of shots from 3, we're probably going to lose the game more often than not. But so far, the Boston Celtics have made that formula work, and that's why they're going to sweep the Indiana Pacers and find a way to get back to the NBA Finals for the second time in the last 3 seasons. And I want to show you guys one more clip of Stephen A. Smith looking like an absolute fool. Clearly, this guy is not all in on watching the NBA, and I say this because he said this on NBA Countdown. Roll the film.
You've been my partner for years at this network. You ain't never heard me say what I'm about to say. I ain't rooting for no damn long series. I need some time off.
Seems like Stephen A. Smith is going to be right about this series not taking long at all, because the Indiana Pacers have struggled to beat the Boston Celtics during close moments, which is something that a lot of people did not know the Celtics could do, which is win close games. But the Celtics, they've been able to do that at a high level. But for Stephen A. Smith to say that as an NBA analyst, and he's supposedly the face of NBA coverage on ESPN, no wonder why it's trash. Imagine being the face of sports coverage on ESPN, and you're saying you're hoping that the conference finals finishes early so I can get some time off. Are you kidding me, man? This is something that I expect NBA players to say when making excuses for load management, but no wonder why ESPN makes excuses for players load managing. That's because their star media member, Stephen A. Smith, is trying to make excuses to load manage his work in the sports media world. That's why he's rooting for a conference finals series to finish up rather quickly. We all know that Stephen A. Smith is not really following the NBA at this point. This is the same dude that said Quentin Grimes was a weapon for the New York Knicks when he hasn't even played for the New York Knicks since February. He got traded to the Detroit Pistons, and he was saying all kinds of stupid things when ranting about the New York Knicks not too long ago. We all know Stephen A. Smith's knowledge of the game is clearly limited. Matter of fact, his knowledge on football, basketball, boxing, whatever sport you want to say for Stephen A. Smith is really limited. There's a reason why YouTubers know more about the game of basketball than Stephen A. Smith. It's clear that his knowledge of the game is limited, and I don't agree with the comments that he had to say about Jaylen Brown, because it clearly clearly came out of left field. It's clearly not true. Jaylen Brown is a great teammate, and he's done a great job playing basketball for the Boston Celtics at a high level. As far as how Game 4 is going to play out, I got the Celtics winning comfortably. They're going to win by 15 plus. I believe the Boston Celtics are going to sweep the Indiana Pacers, and they will go back to the NBA Finals for the second time in the last 3 seasons. You got to give credit to the Celtics where credit is due. It seems like this year is going to be the year they win the title, and I've been really impressed with the way the Celtics have been able to construct this roster. The coaching of Joe Mazzulla has also been pretty good this year as well, and the construction of this roster and Brad Stevens has been effective as well. You got to give those guys a lot of credit for the success of the Boston Celtics. There's a reason why they've dominated the Eastern Conference. It's because they're significantly better than everybody else. So that is why I do not agree with Stephen A. Smith's comments on Jaylen Brown, as his knowledge of the NBA is clearly limited compared to his peers in the sports media world. Also, happy Memorial Day to everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed the 3-day weekend. I hope you guys enjoy spending time with your family and friends, because it is a great holiday to celebrate. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @Dustin Tran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin Tran, and that's Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.